In this review, we will be looking at A Year of Rain, a real-time based building strategy title that released back in 2020 by Daedalic Entertainment. So, the first impression that one will receive is that this A Year of Rain is made in the mold of Warcraft 3, especially of the early 2000s, such as Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, and Reign of Chaos. It's made in that mold, and it's made in that fantasy setting. So just like Warcraft, A Year of Rain has its various beasts, monsters. It's got its mages, magic, warriors, and all different sorts of characters and narrative elements that combine to create this cohesive fantasy setting. And this is done well in A Year of Rain. It's got its own lore, it's got its own setting, and this is definitely a plus point on the good side. But as I will note, as the title of this review states, I found A Year of Rain to be a somewhat inspired, but also very frustrating and problematic title. I will describe these points shortly. There are some good elements to A Year of Rain. I thought that the story was well communicated through voice narrative, especially on loading screens. The voice acting in the game itself, in the gameplay, was all right. It was acceptable and it communicated essential information. I think the another strong point is that the Year of Rain focuses on heroes. So you have your various heroes. You play at least with two of them at one time, and each levels up, and each has its own unique skills and abilities. There are some concerns that I have with the heroes, especially the leveling up, which I will note shortly. But in general, the heroes are great. Their sort of stats are well communicated. You will, for example, are told what their attack damage is, what their life pool is. Things like their skills are well communicated, and so on. So this is definitely one of the things that works in A Year of Rain. But as things become problematic, we find that A Year of Rain has been abandoned by its developers. There have been no releases of patches or fixes for any of the problems in the game, and this is definitely something each of us needs to be aware of before we purchase A Year of Rain. Despite its rather budget price purchasing price at the moment, you can purchase A Year of Rain for roughly $10 on Steam, speaking as of now. So some of the problems that really turned me away from this experience and made it really problematic for me was just things don't work quite as they should. A lot of nothing is broken. It's not like the game crashes or you can't continue playing. You can play, but there are frustrating annoyances. Things don't quite work as they should, especially when you compare A Year of Rain to other RTS titles. And I've come playing A Year of Rain on the back of Spellforce 3 Reforced, and that was an excellent RPG RTS experience, very similar to A Year of Rain. Has its base building elements, has its heroes, and so on. So that was kind of the standard I had when I came in here, and unfortunately, A Year of Rain falls well short of that standard. So to talk about some of the negatives, uh, perhaps the first thing we can say, I mean, I didn't like more personally, is the level capping. So every level in the game you play through, you have a very certain level cap. So in the first stage or the first play map, I could not exceed level 2 on my characters, and I would reach that level within a few minutes. So took away for me. That took away a lot of the progression that I could have experienced in a Year of Rain with my heroes, and I found that to be quite disappointing. The same was done in Warcraft 3 back in the day, but I did not find it as sort of oppressive or suppressive in Warcraft 3 as I did in A Year of Rain. Another thing especially problematic, and I think most people will experience this in the gameplay, is that the pathing of the units is pretty bad. You can select your units and ask them to go to one specific spot on the map, and they will go in all sorts of directions in the wrong way, routes that don't make sense. Some of them just won't even react. And this was especially pertinent in combat situations. There were a number of times when I would be in combat with multiple enemies, and I have numerous units on my side, and the units would just stand there doing nothing, even to the extent where they would be being shot by an archer or a watchtower or something like that. The units just feel unresponsive there. It's like they just don't work as they should. And this is quite problematic, especially how well this sort of element of the RTS was implemented in Spellforce Reforged. So that definitely stuck out as a sore thumb. There's problems with things like heroes and units getting stuck on each other. There were occasions when units couldn't pass through narrow gaps, or they would get stuck in mass, especially in battle. And this is frustrating and messes up the combat situations. It also just stops the gameplay because you try to progress through story missions and your heroes can't move past each other or the soldiers. Then you have to spend time trying to reconfigure your units on the field so that they can walk past each other. It's just a real mess. Other games sort of allow players to walk through one another or make the impact or the scale of impact much smaller, so these things do not happen. This was quite frustrating. Also, on occasion, your military unit, my military units would clump up. So rather than keeping in formation, when I select multiple units and click one spot on the map, they all clump up on that same spot, as if they're trying to get to one single pixel on the screen. It's, again, problematic. It looks bad and unpolished. It makes the game look a bit sloppy. There's another thing I didn't quite like was that if your hero dies, just one of them in these missions, it's you automatically fail the mission and have to restart. I don't know why this is the case. You can't respawn. And this was problematic for me because I played A Year of Rain on hard difficulty, and indeed it's quite difficult. I died a few times and had to keep rerunning missions. But perhaps the sort of straw that broke the camel's back here for me was the healing times of my units, or my heroes in particular. So I even calculated the time. So there are occasions when my two heroes would come up against a group of enemies. I would defeat them, maybe just with enough life points left to keep my heroes alive. Say each having a pool of 20% health each. And the amount of time it takes for these health pools to rejuvenate and revitalize is ludicrous. I even calculated that it would take 16 minutes for one of my heroes to go from 20% health to 100% health. So this happened several times where I would have to pause and wait between combat scenarios for my heroes to regenerate their health. And I just wasted so much time. I even at one moment waited and went to have supper and came back, and the heroes had just finally rejuvenated their health. When this happened several times, I kind of gave up with A Year of Rain. I wasn't going to put myself through any more of this tedium and this frustration. So I think this offers a general impression of what you might go through when you play A Year of Rain. I think it's inspired. It's a rare title. It's made in the mold of Warcraft 3, and that was a great game back in the day. And no one would object to more of those titles coming out today. A Year of Rain was one that tried to achieve that, to the extent that the games are very similar, down to even the resource collection management. But just all these frustrations come together to unfortunately undermine what could have been a good title in the RTS base building genre. So I think it's quite disappointing, and you will have to keep this in mind before you purchase A Year of Rain.